Marketing Officer, Bobbie Lloyd, also of TLC's Next Great Baker. Thanks so much for having us here.
I'm so proud to have you here. Thank you.
So today we're talking about berries and fruit in cupcakes. So where do you begin if you want to add fruit?
Well, you know, I think the best way to look at things like this, you know, we've got a strawberry baked into a batter.
Yeah.
So you can start with a basic batter. I have a couple recipes I really love, simple, easy things. And you just add either a fruit puree or you can add the whole fruit to it.
Right, and so let's talk about the puree side of things. So if you're going to add puree to your regular batter, what do you replace? You know, do you take out some of the flour? Do you take out some of the milk? Because obviously it's kind of halfway there between a liquid and a solid.
About, if you're adding a cup of, like for a batter of cupcakes that makes 24, I would add about a cup of strawberry puree. Now this one here is actually pureed quite smooth. You can also do it very chunky.
Right.
So I use a potato masher at home. I slice my strawberries up and I just smash them with the potato masher. So then they're not pure liquid, there's more texture.
Yeah.
So then you just replace about a quarter of the liquid for about the amount of liquid that you're adding to it. With blueberries, you don't need to change anything because you don't want to puree your blueberries, you want them whole.
Right. So you just throw them in
Just
there.
throw them in. Same thing with raspberries. And we also do things like, you know, put a strawberry on top.
Right.
So that it bakes in and then it becomes like a roasted strawberry.
Are there other fruits that sort of don't do well and really need to be pureed because you kind of can't find, like, you know, bananas or oranges? I mean, do some of them take to one side or the other?
Well, like an apple, if you're going to put an apple in your cupcake, you really should cook it first because the apples need that sort of caramelization to cut the apple up, cook it with a little butter, a little sugar, a little lemon juice, maybe some cinnamon, nutmeg, and then add that, or make applesauce and add that. I like chunky. I like to taste and bite into my fruit.
Right, so you're not just like, I get a hint of this. Really
so like this cupcake, it does have, if I popped it open before, it does have a strawberry puree in it, so it kind of colors it a little bit, but we also put the whole strawberry in there, so you're getting that texture into the cake.
Right, and then also, what about frosting? Can you add fruit into your frostings, or is it better to do it in the batter?
Absolutely. So this one is a strawberry meringue buttercream. You can use just classic American buttercream. This one over here is the blueberry with a lemon cream cheese icing. So we made it very pungent, so you get a real kick of tartness to that.
Right.
So for buttercreams and any type of a topping, it's best to use a puree. And with purees, you want to make sure you're getting the fruit flavor out of it.
Right.
So always taste your fruit. Make sure it's sweet. If it's not very sweet, you're going to have to add some sugar.
Right, if it's not a good piece of fruit to begin with. And then, I mean, that kind of leads into frozen fruit versus fresh fruit at the right time of year. I mean, can you use, does some fruits lend themselves well to starting frozen, or should you, I mean, obviously always try to go fresh, but
especially if you're doing purees. So the quick frozen are actually fantastic. Get a good brand, organic is great, and they're picked at the height of the season when they have the most flavor.
Right.
So if you let those thaw out, all of a sudden they're very juicy, and then you puree it. You wouldn't want to necessarily do it with blueberries, but any fruit you're going to puree, absolutely. Strawberries, raspberries, peaches, those are all great. Mango. Those are all great frozen, and let them thaw out and puree them because it just creates an automatic juiciness.
Is there a ratio that you tend to recommend?
If it becomes all blue, that's
right. You've gone too far.
Well, you can kind of tell with these cupcakes is that you can see that it's got blueberry all around it. But I'd say for this batch, there's probably about a cup of blueberries per 24 cupcakes.
And it doesn't sort of take over, it'll still rise, it'll still do everything it's supposed to do. Just throw it all in there?
Just throw it in. The burst of flavor is quite spectacular.
And then what about the ways to fold it in? Is there, you know, you don't want to get it too wet, or you don't want to throw it in all at once. What do you recommend
Well, once
doing?
your batter is finished, this is about a cup and a half. So if I were going to add the strawberries, you maybe add about half of that, 3/4 of a cup. And when you're folding in, you always go down the center of your bowl and up and over. Because you spend all this time creaming your butter, creaming your sugar, getting that rise. You don't want to deflate it by adding an additional ingredient. So with blueberries,
be careful.
And whole fruit, something that's really important, and you want to cover your blueberries with a little bit of flour. So if your total batch uses, say, 2 cups of flour, hold out 2 tablespoons. And then if you add the 2 tablespoons with your blueberries, coat them completely and add them at the very end. It helps to keep them from dropping to the bottom. So you can see with these, still there's blueberries still up at the top. And you know, you can make cake as well. And one of my favorite things to do at home is to take a basic batter, put it in a cake pan, and then put sliced fruit on top. So I'll do peaches, apricots, strawberries, blueberries, kind of push them, press them down just slightly, and then put a little brown sugar or white sugar on top, and it caramelizes a little bit, so you get that roasted fruit on top. It's quite
So you can do the fruit on top before baking or after if you want it to be really fresh. Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. And obviously, you can watch Bobbie on TLC's Next Great Baker. Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you.